Welcome to Innovate Her with Yaritza, the podcast that dives deep into the inspiring world of women of color in the edtech industry. There is no format, right? The best kind of professional development and conversations are those that are unscripted. Welcome to Innovate Her with Yaritza, where we celebrate the boundary breakers, the system shakers, and brilliance makers redefining edtech and beyond. I'm your host, Yaritza, and every episode will honor women of color who are transforming the education landscape. Today's guest is a cultural architect, a futurist, a woman in tech. She's the founder of the Jihan Collective, BeatBotics, and people know her as Jihan J. I want y'all to pull up a seat and vibe with us as we welcome the incomparable Jihan Johnston-McGlotten. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. What's poppin'?
How are you? Well,
I'm good. Happy Terry Day,
Be Terry Day.
Yes.
I feel like although I use certain words to describe you, I want the audience to get a chance to really know who Jihan is. So please tell the people, especially those in the back, who is Jihan J and what grounds you?
So I'm always going to say I'm just a mom because that is literally all that I do 24 hours. However, I'm like you said, a cultural architect where I love to build communities. I love to build global communities. I've set in different, industries, whether it's from entertainment, gaming and esports, educational technology, regular ed tech, now technology. I like to call myself the hippie fairy of different industries because I love to float around and be able to fill my toolbox with different, resources to make me feel approachable, but also be able to walk away and be able to create safe spaces. So right now it's more of perfecting my personal brand because I have been that face for so many other different organizations. It's time to fill my own bucket. And so that's where I'm at right now, filling my own bucket, fulfilling my own dreams, and really being that mompreneur, but also that global voice for people that may look like me, that may feel some type of connection to me, but more importantly, just to create a voice of reasoning for all.
I love that for you and for us, because that obviously means that we get to see your work in action.
Absolutely.
And you've been in this space for a very long time. I also want to emphasize that esports is not new to you, right?
No. Like esports is like, I've been doing this for 6 years now, and I gave myself like a cutoff. I was like, I'm not going to drown myself in the industry for more than 8 years. So I'm coming up on my last 2 years, and then I want to dip off into something else. And so that's for me. I think it still be under my umbrella because I'm not letting it go. For people that may be like, well, what about esports? For me, it's more about cultivating those communities and showing people of color that we do belong. When I first heard about it, it was a racial lawsuit that was going on with Rick Fox and his business partner. And then I was like, okay, how can I change this? How can I make it evolving? Because if I were a kid, like I'm from Philly. So if I was from Philly, coming straight out North Philly, and I'm like, okay, I game, but how do I get access? Nobody could have ever told me that. And so for me, it's more about creating that lane and providing access so that people of color see themselves within these industries.
So do you believe that things have shifted over the years, or like, is there still a need for us to, disrupt?
I think it's an ongoing disruption because it's a fraternity mindset. It's a predominantly white space. Statistics show that 78% of the gaming industry is white men. And then Black women, we make up less than 1%. And then Black people, we make up less than 4%. And that's just within game designers. That's not even talking about the stats and the different sides of it. And so I always think in this side, we have to disrupt, but I just think in general, we have to disrupt everywhere.
Then, I'm all for disruption. I'm all for strategic chaos where we're saying these things need to change and we're going to come together as a people and be realistic about what change looks like, and also understand that it's not going to happen overnight. But I definitely want to talk more about your work because you also have created these pathways to weave in hip hop into what you do as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk culture and code.
Let's do it.
Yes. How do you intentionally weave hip hop's fundamental elements into your work, especially in esports, game design, and even now with the Jihan Collective?
Hip hop is me. As you see, I have the vinyls in the background, but hip hop is a representation of who I am. of what I was raised in. So a lot, I always say this. I was raised in the music industry. I've worked at Def Jam. I've worked at Kanye West's Good Music label as an intern. And so for me, all of the five elements that are founded under hip hop are in everyday life and within culture. And so I have a workshop that I've designed where it's game changers and mic masters, and it's where we're understanding the intersectionality of gaming and esports, but also hip hop culture and creative arts. And so for me, it's looking at the elements of game. And I'm not a designer. I don't know anything about game designer. I don't know shit about coding. I just know that gaming is a language for our people.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that inside of these games and inside of these productions, you have the hip hop. You have the dancing, you have the clothing, you have the music, you have the urban brand deals. And it's so funny because in esports, the jerseys are called urban wear. Like the clothing is called urban streetwear. And I'm just like, hey, that is a replica of hip hop culture. And so for me, it's like, okay, how do I blend this? Because hip hop is a world language. And so when we're talking about gathering and curating global spaces, hip hop will always be that love of music to be able to gather and cultivate these spaces with global voices.
I feel like you just feeding my soul this morning. You are feeding my soul this morning. I love hip hop, but there's so many different genres of music that I listen to. Like one morning, I may listen to just gospel because I woke up and I'm just like, I need to hear the word today.
Absolutely.
Other days or other nights, depending on, what the feeling is, I'm listening to my salsa merengue and I'm dancing and I'm playing.
Dancing,
Like,
getting that grooving, listening
yeah,
to bachata, everything, just getting in. Saturday mornings cleaning. You know
yes.
how that is.
But then hip hop, I mean, I'm not American, right? Well,
Right.
I became a citizen a couple of years ago, but being born from Panama and then living in America and learning about the history of hip hop and listening to how people respond to lyrics and music. And growing up, I used to have like natural hair and I loved Lauryn Hill, right? I loved listening to doo-wop. It was just certain things that for me was like, I fit in and I look like her and I
Right.
understand what she's saying. And yes, I get it. And so when I learned that you were infusing hip hop and game design and esports, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And you said it, right? It's the love language of our people. Like I know for my students, when I would play music in class, most of the students would ask for hip hop and
Yeah.
rap and R&B. And then you had like, I had like 2 or 3 students who were just like, I want the total opposite.
Right.
But what impact do you believe that fusion has on student voice and engagement?
I mean, listen, the voice, the rhyming, the metaphors, the language, the writing. For me, I think it's a form of expression, I did this workshop with the Emolja conference. And so this conference is based out of LA, where it's just geared to straight community college and transfer students that are of color. And I had almost 250 students in a room learning about the voices of hip hop and what they did. And so I always, at the end, you have to bust a freestyle. In any workshops that I do that tie in music and hip hop, you have to write a 16 bar. I've done this workshop at AME in Burbank where a guy had an entire beat machine in his book bag and he was a teacher and he created a beat and created his 16 bars. And so for me, it gives people a sense of creativity. I think oftentimes we're so caught up in the rapture of, if you're educated, data, test scores, making sure we're aligning student standards. And I think in everyday people's work, we get so caught up in just being that we forget, like, okay, hip hop is elements of just life. It brings joy, it uplifts the spirits. I'll never forget, like, I always talk with my 17-year-old, almost 17-year-old, because he doesn't want me to press his age, but it's like, your hip hop is totally different than mine. It's like, ours had reasoning, ours had, lessons to be learned. Now it's just like, don't, it's just straight bass. And I love that for them, but it's like, let's bring it back. Right now it's like the beef with Jim Jones and Nas, and it's like, Nas is a true lyricist. Jim Jones, you're from Harlem. Like, there's a difference. So for me, I think it's just understanding what speaks to our soul the most. Like Wu-Tang for president. I will always say that because I think Wu-Tang is that universal language for all people.
Yeah, you see my face. I was like, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's where for me, I look back in all of my educational journey from middle school. My senior exit project in high school was hip hop elements, the culture of hip hop. My thesis for my master's was how do I implement hip hop within urban communities to teach structural standards for education. And then my PhD, I do research centered around that because I just think Black joy and Black culture is uplifting, and it feeds the soul. Right now, I'm working on a research project and a paper on what exactly is Black joy currently in this economy. So for those that are watching this, surveys are out. I'll put the link, I'll give the link. But I'm really trying to capture the data of what speaks to the Black soul and the Black joy of our culture globally.
Please give me the link because I definitely want to share
Absolutely.
it. And we're definitely going to share it in the Substack after as well. But you talked about Black joy. And, the whole purpose of this podcast is to think about Black women uplifting each other and women of color, basically saying, okay, I went through that as well. And this is how I overcame that, or this was the impact that my work does now. And we can help each other out. And you've been in esports long before it hit school curriculums, or long before people understood the importance of it being in school
And
curriculums.
they're still trying to figure it out.
Because they believe that everything should just be a competition as opposed to students really just honing in on skills. But I'm
Right.
going to keep that opinion to myself and leave it for a little bit at the end, right?
Right. Hello.
So you know how I am. I just want to get raw. Can
Let's
you
do
share
it.
some of the discrimination and resistance that you faced as a woman of color building in this space?
Oh my gosh. Going through it right now. Going through it right now. Unemployed. By the grace of God, I do have one contract, but it's, I'm too much, I used to work at a big tech company on the side of education, and I was let go because they didn't feel comfortable with my communication style, and I didn't make them I made them uncomfortable. And I'm just like, I'm not going to be the silent person in the room and not stick up for myself, or be that individual that is not able to stick up for others. I've been that only person of color in the room, not just only a person of color, but that only woman in the room. And so for me, it's just like, give people chances. Give people chances.
All right, Jihan, you've been in esports space way before it was in the school curriculums. And we know that they're still struggling to implement esports into the curriculum where it makes sense for our students. Can you share some of the discrimination and resistance that you faced as a woman of color building in this space?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I think because it's a male-dominated space, predominantly Caucasian, it's hard. It's a struggle. Statistics show that it is less than 1% of Black women or women of color in this space. And so it's kind of like, because it's a fraternity mindset, I use that very often, and it's in a lot of research. A lot of times we get looked over. I use that as an example right now. Like, I have one contract and I'm thankful, but I should be able to be doing more work and getting more offers when it comes to providing access, when it comes to doing the work, instead of being overlooked. I look at some of my, other people in this industry, and it's like they're booming. But when it comes to me, it's like, no, 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 no. And so for me, it's like, now, how do I create my own lane and my own space to help do the work and provide the work that needs to be done? Because there are still Title I schools that do not have access. There are still people in rural communities that don't have access, and even globally. And some of the reason is because they want to be with people that look and sound like them. And so for me, it's best in where I'm putting my boots on the ground. That's the new Black joy culture right now. I'm putting my boots on the ground and really help curating these global spaces and global communities that not just look like me, but feel like me, that look like people, having some way to identify, because that has been the other thing. It's like, okay, I'll go into these spaces. I may be the only person of color, and I just don't feel like myself. It's like I have to code switch, and I don't want to have to go anywhere. I have to code switch.
Yeah. Listen, I get it, right? And I think for me, I'm so used to code switching, especially as a person who I wasn't born in this country. I was code switching from the time growing up and being in different spaces and understanding that some people are just not going to get my culture or what we do in my household or how I speak. So from the time that I was, of age, it was like I have to code switch anyway. So for me, it's so natural when I'm in different spaces. But I also know that as a consultant and as a person who has her own business now, and it has been tough, right? Because you do get to see people who do the same thing as you or who act as if they do the same thing as you're doing, right? Because for me, it's just an act. If AI is the big thing, people change their name to AI specialist. And then tomorrow, if robotics is
It's
the big thing,
gonna
they're going to be
be
robotics
coding.
specialist.
It's gonna, like, I've seen so many new AI awareness and
Yeah.
educators. Just like, this has been the topic of conversation. I've known about AI since 2018. Knew about it,
Yeah.
was teaching AI VR classes at Morehouse. And it's just like, okay, it's 2026. We're still fucking talking about this. Like, if y'all haven't jumped on board and gotten it together, it's just like, I remember at a big ed tech conference maybe 3 years ago that was the it thing. And it's like, okay, we're still behind. When are we going to catch up? Why are we not talking about certain things? We're still pushing certain metrics. And it's just like, okay, these metrics are being pushed, but they're not being pushed in the inner city. And so for me, I have a problem with that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I stepped away from the overall policies and school buildings of education, is because I hate seeing people suffer and being so far behind that it's going to be a challenge for them to catch up. Like, hello world, state testing is not everything. I really wish the emphasis in education is not fucking state testing, because it does not make a child. I think innovative, creative technology needs to be infused into classrooms, and just also everyday studying, because we can't teach teachers about AI if we're preventing our students from using it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Listen, I was literally just having this conversation with a 21-year-old yesterday, my daughter's sister, and she went to college for computer science. She's always been into technology, right? This is someone who went, like, that was her focus in high school. She majored in college and then came out, did some tech work, and was like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Because it's just too much hype around it, and no one's being realistic as to the challenges that our urban communities are facing. The first is resources, right? And I had a conversation with her, and I said, I used to think that if I left the classroom, no one else is going to do my work and no one else is going to be there for my students. And so that turned into me making excuses for not leaving, until I finally was pushed to leave by Flipgrid, where they were just like, look, we want you to work for us. We want you to do the same thing that you're doing in your classroom, just for millions of students across 5 continents. And it wasn't until, like, I picked myself up and left, where then I began to think about other opportunities that I could create for my students. And sometimes we feel like if we leave, no one else is going to jump in and do the work that we've been doing. But I feel like only Black women do that. Only Black women, because I don't know if it's because of that motherly role that we have, that is like, who's going to help our kids out? But in regards to AI, in regards to most schools not receiving adequate funding and most schools not being aware as to the importance of it, I always use New York City schools as an example, because I feel like, and there's some bias in this, but we are the exemplar when it comes down to technology and when it comes down to equity in education.
You guys
I
are.
think New York City is forced to do it, right? We're the most diverse, but also largest school district in America. We have 88,000 teachers, 1.1 million students. You're not going to find that level of diversity anywhere, and you're not going to find the level of parents who are just like, my kid needs to know X, Y, Z. Brought up something that for me has been a topic of, I guess, all of my schooling, especially when I went to college, and that's the idea of state testing. In New York, we test for everything. But if states take away testing and assessments, how else would they know how many jails to build? How else would they determine how many of our kids they're going to hold back, right? So I always think about what happens when you take away state testing. We know there has to be a world without state testing.
I mean, it was shown during COVID.
Listen,
COVID was the prime example. Like, I raised my son. My son has known since 2nd grade, you don't have to take no state testing. Like, mommy's going to write your letter and you're going to go in the other classroom and you're not going to do it. Because for me, you're not going to base a test that has never been designed for Black or brown students off of my child. My child is fucking intelligent as shit. The other children in the classroom are intelligent as shit, but you guys are looking at this test score to really figure out if they're going to be a part of the school to prison pipeline. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. And I refuse to allow my child, and I would continuously advocate for other children and their parents. And what is so fucking mind-boggling is that parents don't know that their kids don't have to participate. And for me, that is a conversation that's a part of the resources and the awareness that is left out. Because when you go to these other schools in these other districts and these other areas, the kids aren't taking it. You know, COVID showed us that we don't need state testing. That was 2 years of no state testing. Were the kids harmed?
It's true.
They weren't harmed. They
That
weren't
is
harmed. They didn't lose out on anything. They still got their education. And the only reason if kids were left behind is because they weren't at home getting that adequate education. Because education is not just in the classroom. Education is everywhere. It's at home. It's through travel. It's through reading. It's through connection. It's through networking. And I was just telling somebody this. I was like, I wish I could create a school where kids came in once a week to get those general ed classes, but they had to use real life through my school to be able to get that connection, to be able to get that experience. It's so important that kids have that out of the box experience that they're not getting it right now. Like how are we teaching kids every day about AI, but when they come in the classroom, we're taking away the computers, we're taking away their phones. They have no access anymore. It's just mind-boggling.
It is. And schools like that, they do exist. Like the school where I was an assistant principal at, consortium schools here, and it's focused on PBL. Students freshman year, they literally go out into their communities and they find an issue. And for the 4 years, they use different resources. They partner with organizations. They present in front of their teachers and their community members on how they plan to solve that issue. And they do take state exam, but they only take the math and ELA. And that's it. And they take that.
But that just shows the difference, you know, as opposed to like Georgia. Like, I'm so frustrated right now. Like, kids gotta go back to school July 31st. Are you serious?
July 31st?
Hello?
July 31st for what?
That's when school starts. That's the first day of school for students. That's a prime example. That's a prime example. Kids just got out the 21st of May. So make that make sense. Make it make sense. Like, for me, I'm glad I'm going through the last year of school in general. Like, and like you said earlier, like you left. You were, you left when you were ready. For me, I left when I almost died. I damn near died. I passed out at the school, stopped breathing, had to learn how to walk again, had to have emergency surgery, all from the stress of education. And so for me, it was like, I'm not pushing myself for people that don't appreciate me no more. I was pushing myself more hard as a admin than I was just as a mom. I was missing out on motherhood to appease the superintendent of a school. And I'm like, no. And so for me, that's when I entered consulting. I was like, okay, this is my way. Like, I'm not committing myself to, the stresses of somebody else's organization anymore because I lost my life.
And for some women, and some people in general, they don't have that choice though, right? So it's like you get sick and you hit that realization hits you, but you don't have anywhere else to go. So you find yourself right back in that same situation with some people who have taken advantage of your time, your intellect, your effort, and your love. Because for me, love drives what we do. In order to be an educator, there has to be some form of love in there because I know patience. I always say, had I not become an educator, I'm a patient person. I think anybody that knows me personally understands when it comes down to patience, I lack it. But when it comes down to having patience with kids, I'm all for it. I'm the most.
Mine's was, I randomly got into education because I had a child. My bachelor's degree is in broadcast journalism. I had no training on being an educator. Like, I was like, I'm going to be on TV. Like, Jihan is coming to your TV screen, and I'm still manifesting it. I will be on somebody's TV screen because that is what my background is. I just happened to do it in a way that I loved to do it. I was a radio teacher. I was a broadcast journalism teacher. So I was able to use my training and implement it into the schools. I joke around and I say I don't like kids, but that was never my passion. But now when it comes to education, it's like, how do I change the mindset and trajectory of these adults that are schooling these kids? Because the kids are already here. The adults are the ones that are scared and scared to come up to the forefront and understand the importance of innovation.
If you tuned into the beginning of this episode, I also talked about Jihan being an ecosystem builder, right? So I want her to really dig into, because she went from BeatBotics to now the Jihan Collective as well. I want you to give them a taste of what both are, but also what can they look forward to with the Jihan Collective, since that's fairly new.
Oh man, the Jihan Collective is just my personal brand. For me, it's, I've been the face for everybody else. And you said something just a couple of minutes ago was the importance of your intellectual property. And so for me, I'm taking back the importance of my intellectual property. Instead of being the face for other organizations and helping organizations grow, now it's time for people to see who I am. Like, I've been in so many different spaces. My global network, like, I'm a multi-billionaire when it comes to my global network. It's time to tap into that and show people who Jihan is, show the mother of me, show who I am as the curator that brings different people together from all walks of life, the researcher, the hippie, the person that likes to have fun, the party side. Because for me, when you look at a lot of my social media, it's straight professional. Nobody knows who Jihan actually is. So it's also my consultant agency. It's me being able to give my raw, authentic self to organizations, because I believe that cultural piece is missing, but also that human-centered connection is missing. So coming in as that HCI PhD student, being able to show people, corporate, nonprofits, educators, the importance of that human connection when transferring it over to a technology or creative tech. And then BeatBotics is just my organization that my son and I founded, where we are adding those elements of hip hop and teaching the importance of creative technology and community through that. So we're working on building an app, we're working on building global communities, but it's more about making sure that we at the forefront on all age brackets are bringing the importance of creative technology into corporations through digital media. And so that's for me. I'm going back to my media rights. I'm going back to just really showing up authentically me, which is why my new name is The Real Jihan J. I don't need any sub names. I don't need anything. I used to be the hip hop ed tech diva, but for me, it's The Real Jihan J because I make up so many different things that I really just want people to feel the authenticity of myself, but also the rawness of myself.
So what I hear is uplifting identity, innovation, collaboration,
Absolutely.
inclusion, creativity, critical thinking, computational thinking. Like, as you were talking, I was just like, yes, 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 yes. But I want to still hone in on what you just mentioned and talk about co-opting, right? Because I feel like in our space, especially in tech and esports, there might be some folks who might take a visual style or slang of hip hop and paste it onto like a game design just so that it could seem cool or diverse without really involving us or compensating us as creators. So how can other people follow your lead and scale globally and impact not only corporations and school districts, but individuals and families without co-opting our culture?
I think you have to be yourself, man. I think that's one of the things that I've learned the most, is showing up myself and understanding that it's okay to have those uncomfortable conversations. Like for me, you may not like my voice, but I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to make you understand what's right and what's wrong. If you're doing something right, I'm going to praise you. If you're doing something wrong, I'm like, hey, let's scale it back. Let's look at the overall structure, because that was my thing. And I made a post or something. I think I made a video that has come out. Like you cannot, actually I did it on my Instagram. I talk about the human-centered connection, and you cannot build if you are not in that community, connecting with that community. So a lot of people are building the hip hop, the flair, the urban clothes, and using the slang, but yet you're not walking into these communities, providing access and actually getting to know who are the people creating this really in the community. How am I connecting? Instead, okay, let me scroll through a social media. I've seen this, now let me redo it for my brand. And it goes back to that intellectual property. It goes back to that cultural awareness, and it goes back to connecting to the community, because I don't want to see somebody that's creating something and it has no relative connection to the people that are still out here trying to figure out ways to survive.
Listen.
Right. It's, it makes my skin crawl, because, it looks good. Everybody's about content right now.
Yeah.
And it looks good for the content. But then when that content is over, you get your views, you get your likes, you get paid from it. What are you doing to give back?
That's it.
What are you doing to give back?
That is the question, right? Even now, when I go to conferences, even if I'm keynoting or I'm a speaker, I still make time to go into other sessions. And I intentionally go into sessions that the title is culturally responsive. And then I walk in, and when I hear the person present, and I'm like, what is this? The title is not aligned to what you're doing, but also your background knowledge, or most importantly, your experiences. So if you're listening and you're one of those teachers who now have entered into the realm of you want to be culturally responsive or culturally affirming teacher, and you've put that onto like your social hashtags and your social bio, and you're presenting on this topic, but you don't even go into inner city schools. You don't know what it's like for our urban students. You don't know what the experiences was that morning for that student to get up. If you
Hello?
didn't eat the night before to then come into a classroom.
Take their older brother, their siblings
Hello.
to school,
Hello.
come home, cook dinner.
Right? Like, I need you to come to the front because this conversation is for you. I think that so many folks, and you hit the nail on the head with everybody wants these views and these likes, but no one's really impacting our community. No one's really going in.
I ask that question all the time on my socials. Like, how did you create impact today? Like, how did you create it? You know, like if you're somebody, I forgot where it was. Somebody was like, you know, you guys talk about Title I schools, you talk about these urban schools and what you want to do, but you don't ever step foot. You don't ever step foot. You know, one of the organizations I used to work with last year, I had the Japanese delegation. I did a full straight Atlanta tour. And by that, I mean, I took them to the trenches and showed them how they were implementing computer science and technology into community centers. We built out an esports lab in Atlanta. So they saw that. They went to Morris Brown. They saw how Morris Brown used esports to align and get more students involved. How Revolt came in and redid the labs. And so for me, it's all about stop being scared and, listening to the noise and actually coming down and coming to see what is really going on. Like, there are amazing things going on in these urban classrooms, but they get overshadowed or I'll never forget, man. This is when I learned about esports and gaming. I was in North Fulton. I was doing all this work in North Fulton, Georgia. But then when I wanted to go down to Tri-Cities High School, it was like, whatever, like, that's not our main focus. And I'm like, why? Because they're 98% Black, And so for me, it's like, how do I just stay grounded, stay humble, and remember where I came from, and remember that there are people behind me that are still trying to figure out how do I get access.
And sadly, this will always be the conversation.
Always.
It will always be the conversation. Like, I remember having a conversation about the access gap. People who have heard me keynote know that I always mention the access gap and the resource gap and the fact that our communities would always be left behind because people will say that they're helping us out, but they're never really helping us out, right? Those Title I
look at how DEI has been taken away from everything. Prime example. Yeah. It was like, okay, we'll give it to you all for 3 years, 4 years max. And then we're going to snatch it away because you guys don't deserve it. Only to know that there are more intelligent people that are not really looking to benefit off of that, but more looking like, okay, how do I get access? And it sucks that we are in this state in 2026 and we're still talking about this. Not 26. We're almost there, but listen, I'm counting my years ahead. The countdown till my son goes to college. But it's real. I never thought, I have a Caucasian grandmother. That's my heart. Listen, she has raised me to be a strong woman. And the conversations that we have and how she's pushing her brown grandchildren to understand their worth and their ability. It's like, come on, man. She has been doing this work since the 60s and 70s, and she's a lawyer. And so it's just like, keep on fighting, keep on going. That's really what my motto is, and just making sure that people feel that they belong. And that's the biggest thing, is that belonging piece.
I'm glad that you touched on that, right? Because if I'm a student coming into a classroom or coming into a workshop or coming into an after-school program, and it doesn't matter what that title is. It doesn't matter how much music you play. If your first 10 words that come out your mouth does not make me feel a sense of belonging, you're never going to see me again. As an adult, I'm that same.
I'm like that right now.
like as an adult,
say hi, show a face, pat. But if I don't feel like I am a part,
that's it.
It is this.
That's it. I find myself pouring more back into my community. I know this year I said I was going to be more strategic with New York City and our inner city schools, but I also find myself pouring into other people that look like me that have the same intentions as I do when it comes down to our kids, right? I know when I first started out in this ed tech space, I was just like, all right, who wants to learn about culturally responsive teaching? I'm here, I'm everywhere. But then I realized that person or these people aren't really serious about it. And so pushing back and taking all of my intellectual property back and saying, no, you're not going to have access to this. Let me give it to the people who deserve to have access to it and who are going to use it for their communities and their schools. And I know that we're like running down with time, but I have a game. So
let's go.
Let's try to hype some things up.
We love gameplay. We love gameplay over here.
All right. So this is going to be a quick, fun challenge to end this segment. Is going to be called Bars and Bytes, where AI and hip hop collide. So you're like, oh,
I love that.
You're going to get 3 prompts from me, right?
Okay.
And each prompt is going to combine esports, an AI concept, and a hip hop reference, right? I know you changed your name from hip hop diva, but you got
I'm always hip hop.
You okay?
I'm always hip hop.
So for each, you're gonna drop a freestyle, not a real freestyle, an insight on how these elements connect in your work or your community building. So you could either refer to what you're doing with BeatBotics, you could refer to what you're doing with Jihan Collective, or you can even refer to what your aspirations are for 2026, since we brought up 2026.
Okay.
All right, you ready? All right. An NPC teams up with DJ Spinderella in a Twitch room. What happens next? So how do you think this?
Magic happens. It is, DJ Spinderella, if you guys don't know, is a DJ from Salt and Pepper. And so for me, when I think of that, I think of the energy of what it means to walk into a room, the confidence that it gives you, but then also the elements of creative technology and hip hop and how they infuse, of teaching modern day DJing, of teaching the elements of, when we talk about it in gaming, it's shoutcasting, but getting on a mic and just hyping the crowd up. So for me, that's what I automatically think, but also the power behind women. I would love to have a DJ at my women's gaming event. Imagine having a session of women learning how to DJ, but also learning how to build their own tech that comes with the turntable. So that's what I think of.
I'll be there. Okay. Just know when it happens, please send me the invite first.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. You ready for the second one?
I'm ready.
All right. An AI algorithm samples Lauryn Hill's lyrics to create a player stat profile. In a competitive ed tech sim, we could add that. What should educators understand about the values, biases, and message behind or coded in data? So like one example, in Everything is Everything, when she's like, after winter must come spring. Whenever I hear her say that, I'm like, resilience, redemption,
the build,
hope,
how to break through. Coping, because we all know seasonal depression comes in the winter and then the light shines in the spring. And so for me, when I'm looking at any Lauryn Hill lyric, I know that I'm going to be able to take it apart and create a creative writing sample. And so for me, when I hear that, it's how do I break down what really means to me and be able to step into this next season to be bold and confident and keeping my head up while still making sure that I am giving grace and gratitude to what my meaning and reasoning is, and that's giving back to the community, making sure that the people behind me are not getting lost in the ways and the patterns of society, and helping them build up their confidence and lead with strength and resilience and brilliance and understand that they are powerful in their own will and way.
Girl, we should have started off with the game.
This is fire.
But this is a great way to hear Jihan. And even though we've been hearing you this entire segment, I feel like this also gives teachers an idea as to how we can turn music and play and
yeah, I love combining music and play together. I love music and play. It's so much fun.
All right. This is the last one. And I'm going to say this one slow because I really want you to think about this.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
All right. You're designing a custom avatar for new AI-powered rhythm battle game. So you're the creative partner, right? And your other partner is no other than DJ Jazzy Joyce. So she's known for like her sharp cuts, her cultural instincts. What elements must the avatar embody to reflect both hip-hop authenticity and gameplay precision?
Man, DJ Jazzy Joyce.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to incorporate the Black Girls rock. theme in general, but a big afro with headphones, but then also on the side of the headphones and on the turntables having a screen of live streaming, but then also having an announcement. And I went to a DJ battle a couple weeks ago with my sorority. It was absolutely fun. So I'm thinking of that, having it at a conference and it be an element of surprise, of you don't know who's going to come out next. And so with that avatar in the back of it, because of how she gets the crowd hype, the community, the representation of the people and the souls that listen to the music, that feel some type of connection and love that uplifts her with just the sun shining, because it's joy. It's straight joy. That's it.
Listen, we're closing out, right?
Yeah,
And
man.
so on this show, the way we close out is with a message from our guests. So you can either pose a message to a woman who's already in the ed tech industry and is just trying to figure out how to make moves, a young woman who is in a different role but wants to get involved in ed tech but doesn't know exactly where to go, or a young girl who one day dreams to be in ed tech or just tech in general, right? There's so many endless possibilities. What's your message?
This message is just for all women of color, women in general, those that identify. Be yourself. Be yourself. Remember that when you're yourself, blessings will come. Understand that when somebody dims your light, you always have the power to shine your light up higher. Like, remember, you are that LED light. You can shine on so many different levels. But more importantly, remember your intelligence. And remember that you can put your mind to anything. This world was built for you all to exceed and exude the excellence that you all carry. Never let anyone tell you anything that deters you from your own strength and your own will. And always keep your head up. Always keep your head up. Even in those moments of denial and defeat, keep going. Never give up. Never give up. Don't quit. If you have not seen that poem, memorize it, live by it, the Don't Quit poem. When strides are going up a hill, like, you don't quit. Rest if you must, but you don't quit. So I always would say that. Authentically be yourself and never quit.
Thank you so much, Jihan. Y'all heard it. Authentically be yourself. So please applaud. I don't know where you're at, but I know we're out there for our guests. Thank you so much, Jihan.
Absolutely.
I'm your host, Yaritza, and every episode we honor the unapologetic brilliance of women of color who are transforming this education landscape by doing things on their own terms, y'all. You heard it here from Jihan, and don't forget to meet us back next week for our guests.
Bye.